Well, hi there. It is. It's been a while. Um, I know it is Saturday, September 25th, 2020, 26th rather. It is September 26th. Saturday, Journal 383, T+553. I was contemplating just how long it's been since the last time I was able to go ahead and record. I think it was back on the 11th of September, which was, more than 2 weeks ago. And it's been an adventure. I guess my whole life has been an adventure, but certainly the last 2 years qualify as nothing less. So if you recall, back then I had just gotten out of the hospital, uh, having been diagnosed with pneumonia, pleurisy, and pleurisy. Um, I think. I don't really remember, which is frightening enough as it is. I suppose I can go back and look in my visit summary from Cedars and refresh my memory, but I'm not sure what good that would do. I'm not sure it would serve any purpose. What I do know is that a couple of days after I recorded on the 11th, I think it was on the 11th, uh, I was back in the hospital, only this time with a diagnosis of viral pleurisy and pericarditis. Um, Viral pleurisy is an inflammation of the two thin layers of tissue that create a sac around the lungs. And as I mentioned before, I think uh, each of the organs in our body are encapsulated by a sac of two layers of thin tissue. Uh, and the heart is no exception. So the pericardial sac is also two layers of very thin tissue. And it turns out that I was hospitalized for a buildup, inflammation, and a buildup of fluid in both the pleural sac and in the pericardial sac. And that's dangerous. And it was far more dangerous than I thought it was. I guess I'm just too dumb to realize how much trouble I was in. Uh, but what happens is that sac fills up with fluid, and the heart, it finds it extremely difficult to expand and can't really pump blood to the rest of the body unless it's able to expand and contract. So that explained the pressure in my chest. It explained difficulty breathing. Explained a lot of different symptoms that were associated with that. And this has been probably more difficult, perhaps because it was two hospitalizations back to back and they were very close together. Perhaps because I was really sick. I mean, I was really ill, especially the second time. And as I said, was just not smart enough to realize how much trouble I was in. But the clue should have been the steady stream of ologists that was in and out of my room. And of course, the 4 or 5, 6 days I spent in cardiac care, in intensive care in the cardiac care unit over at Cedars, which is scary enough in and of itself. If you're smart enough to realize that you're in trouble. I just kept on keeping on, and I guess that's what helped me get through this. But I couldn't help but think of the fact that so much of what we're involved in life can be reduced to a series of patterns, habits, whatever you want to call them. And we fall into a routine of doing certain things a certain way all the time. It's like recording a blog every day. If you choose to do that, you'll find that it's easier to record every day if you record every day. I know that sounds ridiculous, but if you think about it, it's not. It's really very accurate because you're in that pattern. You're on that role. And patterns are hard to establish, but once established, they're comforting in many ways. They give structure to our lives. And the problem with patterns is that they're perishable, very easily perishable. They break easily. And, winding up in the hospital and finding yourself involved in a whole new pattern, a whole different pattern, that changes everything that you do and the way you do it. Completely destroys whatever it was you were doing before. Now, you would think that because you had established that pattern and you'd established mental and muscle memory, that you'd be able to go back to that pattern easily enough when you're through. Well, I can attest to the fact that that's not 100% accurate. As much as you'd like to, it's not that easy. At least it wasn't for me. I got out of the hospital last Wednesday. Not sure exactly what date that was. I think it was the 16th. No, the 23rd. I got out of the hospital this past Wednesday. It was September 23rd. And it's taken me this long to recover sufficiently from what this past illness, this bout of pericarditis, having the fluid drained from the pericardial cavity, which is kind of medieval in and of itself, because they have to put a needle up in underneath your rib cage, through your diaphragm, into the bottom of the sac, and then insert a tube, and then drain the fluid out. I mean, all of those things don't seem like a lot, especially when you're going through them, but they are, and they're much more debilitating than you think they are when you're going through it. And just getting home, trying to fall back into a new pattern or reestablish an old pattern, fall back into that pattern is far more difficult than I thought it was going to be, frankly. And I could be naive, and probably am, but it's been increasingly difficult. And I spent the first couple of days, certainly the afternoon of the 23rd, all day the 24th, and most of yesterday just trying to recover, get my strength back, be able to move around, because for the most part, this last hospitalization, beginning on the 14th and ending on the 23rd, I was immobile for the most part, and that was the way they wanted to keep me. But here, I'm back, and I'm trying to get reestablished, back in the groove of communicating, back in the groove of establishing a dialogue, trying to find things to talk about of mutual interest. But the thing that's really noteworthy, I believe, is something that reinforced over the last two hospitalizations. When you really think about it, today is the 26th of September, and I spent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, probably 17 of the last 26 days in the hospital. So, recovery has been difficult, and it probably as difficult as it ought to be, or I should have thought it would be. And it gives you time to ponder, to contemplate, to really hold your chin and wonder about what's really important and what's essential. It gives you time to think about how fragile our health really is and how easily shattered it can be. the importance of living a full and complete and good life, trying to do the best you can throughout all of it. And it also teaches you a lesson in perseverance, because when all was said and done, they decided that what caused this last event, or probably both events, was a bout of graft versus host disease. And we've talked about GvHD before. We've talked about it a number of times. It's something that transplant patients, both hard organ transplant patients and stem cell bone marrow transplant patients, live with. It's just a reality of life, and it's something that you have to come to terms with. Though that doesn't make it any easier, nor does it make it any it doesn't make it any easier. Yeah, that's the easiest way to say that, the only way to say it. Because you always, even though the further away you get from the transplant event, the less likely you are to have a GvHD episode, it's still possible. And having an event such as the one that I just did, you realize, how dangerous that is, and how easily things could have gone south very quickly. The good news is, and it is good news, is that because it was a GvHD event, the doctors have decided that it probably can be battled in the future with the same drug I was taking before the transplant, and for the first few days of the transplant, Jakafi, ruxolitinib, however you want to pronounce it, whatever name you want to give it, and that drug, should this happen again, would be the first line of defense once they established the fact that that was the cause of the problem. So that's good news. But all of these things are things to think about, things to ponder, things to wonder about, things to look at under the microscope of your own life and your own values, your own principles, your own judgments, and what you want to do and how you want to do it. In the meantime, I'm going to ask you to stay well, stay safe, stay focused, stay home, and take care. That's it for now.